quote, assistance. I want to bring in a member of that House Oversight Committee who was at today's hearing, Democratic Congressman Subramanyam of Virginia. Also joining us, staff writer for The Atlantic, Sarah Fitzpatrick, who has written about the congressional push to investigate and release the Epstein files. Congressman, I start with you. Just tell me what we learned today. I guess in the movies, the money people always connect the dots in ways that few others inside a criminal organization can. Did we learn anything from the money guy?
Yeah, survivors have told us to follow the money, and that's certainly why we had Richard Kahn in today, and it was very illuminating. We asked him a lot of questions about hush money paid to survivors, to women, and he was very shaky in his answers. He said, I was just the accountant. I just paid the bills, and I didn't know anything about what's going on. That's hard to believe, but certainly he was giving us a pretty good overview of the infrastructure surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, the accountants, the lawyers, and all of the accounts and offshore accounts, everything you need to cover up for a billionaire and make sure that he can get away with crimes and get away with things that 99.9% of Americans can't.
I mean, as you said, he was a billionaire, sort of ran around with fancy people. What did the accountant think the cash was for?
He just thought that it was for paying employees and paying people. He didn't see that as irregular. He didn't see gifts to women as irregular either. He thought this was just the normal course of business. Again, it's very hard to believe. And he says that, he didn't know of any wrongdoing. And if he'd known of any wrongdoing, he would have quit. But we know for a fact that even when he found out about convictions against Jeffrey Epstein, arrests of Jeffrey Epstein twice in 2008 and 2019, he still continued working for him. He still continues to represent the estate and have the estate as his client. And so he clearly has no problem working for Jeffrey Epstein, even when he knows the crimes.
Were they involved, paying for flights? And you think about what the victims have filled in for us in terms of how many people were in and out of the mansion or the office spaces. Did they just think that there weren't qualified applicants for the jobs that were men or that were of age? Or what was their sort of degree of awareness or denial about all that is public now?
He just thinks that any woman, any girl around Jeffrey Epstein was just an assistant, and that he considered them all assistants, and that he had no problem. He said that one of them should have come to him to tell him about abuse, but why would they trust him, right? He's working as a right-hand man, the accountant for Jeffrey Epstein. And so the reality is he didn't want to know at best, or he did know and he's lying to us. It's one of the two things.
Did he provide any leads to additional people that the committee will subpoena?
Absolutely. He provided names of 5 people, 5 major clients of Jeffrey Epstein, people like Leon Black and Les Wexner, the Rothschild family, Glenn Dubin. And so he provided some of those names. He also mentioned Ehud Barak, the former Israeli prime minister. Remember, Virginia Giuffre had mentioned that a former Israeli prime minister had sexually assaulted her very brutally, and she was afraid of even naming him after naming others. And so that's a person of interest to me as well. And then he did mention that one of the accusers who accused Donald Trump as well did get a settlement from the Epstein estate. And so we're going to continue to follow some of those leads as well.
Oversight Committee, I believe you were the first to subpoena the estate, right? The DOJ has never subpoenaed the Epstein estate?
The DOJ had never even talked to Richard Kahn, the accountant. He's only been interviewed in a civil setting, not in a criminal setting. I think that's outlandish, it's outrageous, and it's why people are angry about this case.
Well, it's why the oversight work is so important to the investigation. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us to talk about today. We'll bring Sarah in.